Hi, my name is Adriana and today I'll be doing my reading wrap-up for the month of May. As per usual, we will be starting with my stats. I am going to grab my laptop and bring it out in front of me because that's the kind of operation we run here. The total number of books I read in May was 6. The number of eyeball pages was 1,132. The average page length of my eyeball reads was 377.3. I listened to 23 hours worth of audiobooks, and my physical TBR at the end of May would have been 40. It's a little different now. It's a couple days into June and things happened. At the end of May, it was at 40. So jumping into graphs, I did participate in the Galactic-thon readathon this month. It took place over the entire course of May, and the point of it was to read sci-fi. So I read 5 sci-fi and 1 literary fiction that I still managed to work into the readathon because of bonus prompts. But yeah, I read almost all sci-fi. My audience breakdown was all adult or general audience. Place in a series, I had 4 standalones, 1 start of a series that I did not realize was the start of a series, and then 1 end of a series. Slash a prequel, slash companion, I don't really know. Format, I had 1 ebook, 1 paperback, 1 hardback, and 3 audiobooks. As far as where these were sourced from, 3 of them were from the library, 1 of them was from the publisher slash NetGalley, and then 2 of them I had already owned. My ratings breakdown, we were all above a 3-star this month, which is super exciting. I love to see that. And what I read was right at that 4-star range, so again, feeling pretty good. Page length, like I said, I only read 3 eyeball reads, so 2 of them were in that 300 page range, 1 of them was 400 page range, and then I read 1 book that was written before the 90s, and then everything else was 2020 or newer, because that's the way I roll. So before I jump into the book by book review, please consider liking and commenting on this video and subscribing to my channel if you like bookish things. So the first book I finished was In the Lives of Puppets, and I actually do own this one physically, but I finished it before my husband and I made our move to Oregon, so it is packed up in a box at my parents' house, so I don't have it here with me. But I do own it physically in a Fairy Loot edition, I believe. So it's really pretty, but it's in a box at my parents' house. This one, I think this was my second TJ Klune. I had read Under the Whispering Door was the other one I read, and I do think I enjoyed that one a lot more. It felt just a lot like faster paced. This was very, very slow paced to me. It was mostly just a guy who was very naive running around and getting in trouble, which is not always my favorite. This is like a Pinocchio retelling, kind of like a sci-fi Pinocchio retelling, where the world is run by robots, and then our main character is a human, and his robot dad gets like mysteriously taken away one day, so he goes on a trip to go try to save his robot dad. But yeah, I mean, I think I enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I had a good time, but it was just like kind of slow, very fairy tale-esque, which makes sense being a Pinocchio kind of retelling. But yeah, it was cute. I will read more TJ Klune. I do own more TJ Klune, so I'm still like kind of hit or miss as to how I feel about him as an author. But this like really didn't push the needle for me one way or another. The next book I finished was Those Beyond the Wall. I got this as an ARC on NetGalley and loved it. Like it is so good. I think something I will say about like having read like all sci-fi this month is sci-fi is it's just such a better avenue for like cultural criticisms. Like you just get so much more, you get more out of sci-fi than I feel like you do out of a lot of fantasy books. I don't know why that is, and that might have been why I didn't enjoy like In the Lives of Puppets that much, because it really wasn't trying to do any sort of like critiques on culture. It was just like kind of a tale-esque retelling in kind of a sci-fi world. Those Beyond the Wall, definitely dystopian sci-fi, commenting on like the Black Lives Matter movement and like just social justice movements in general, how different types of people can give back to a social movement, or like I guess contribute to a social movement. How you do need different types of people to protest in different ways. Like it's very good. It's very good. It was really fun to kind of see, because again, this is more of like a companion novel than it is like a full prequel or sequel. I guess it's not a prequel at all. It is fully taking place after the events of the first book. But it was really cool to see a different side of this world that was so well set up in the Space Between Worlds. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I don't know what else to say. It's very good. The next book I listened to was Upright Women Wanted. I actually listened to this like all in one go on the drive over to Oregon while my husband and I were moving. And this was a very fun, just like binge listen of a book. It's like super short. So like if you do have just like an afternoon where you want to like blast through a book, I would highly recommend this one. It kind of feels like, it definitely just feels like a movie. Like you're just sitting down and watching like a little Western movie. But it is a, again, kind of dystopian sci-fi Western, which I love all those things. What a great combination. And it is about this young woman who takes up with these librarians whose job it is to distribute media throughout the West. And it turns out that the librarians are really a cover for like resistance fighters to the fascist state that is the new America. Because this is so short, we don't really get like a lot of world building. Like we don't really get to see like kind of the fascist state that is what the world is set in, but you just kind of get plopped into a world and they're like, this is just like a small vignette of like what's going on, which is kind of fun. Like sometimes you don't need to get like all super in depth into what is going, and we can just kind of like plop in and see a story and have a good time. Another book that was just kind of like plop in and hang out and just see a story was Writers and Lovers. I listened to this as a part of the Shelf This Book Club that is Bailey Reading host. The co-host who picked this book was Kayla from Kayla Ray Reads, and I really like this book. Apparently most of the people in the book club were just kind of like meh on this, but I thought it was really fun. It was about this young woman kind of just going through like a hard time in her life and like just struggling, and also still trying to date and take care of herself and work, and I don't know, it's a young woman struggling. I don't really know what else to say. I did give it 5 stars. I liked the vibe. A lot of people felt it had no vibes, but I enjoyed it. The next book I listened to was a full departure from like everything else I had read in May. Still sci-fi, but definitely more, I don't know if it's like indie or not, but definitely like not a popular booktubey, TikTok-y kind of author book. It is very much written by a man, and so much of the book, it is painfully obvious it is written by a man. But this is a book set in a future that dogs have been eradicated from the planet due to a specific kind of like dog cancer that's like really contagious and like really deadly. So there are no more dogs. So there is this company that makes like genetically synthetic dragons for hunting wild hogs in the American Southwest, and it is their new goal to domesticate dragons to create like pet dragons to basically fill the void that dogs left. So we have this man who is like kind of a postdoc who is trying to work for this company in order to gain access to their resources to run some like models about his brother's like muscular degenerative disease. There's a lot going on in this book. That's what it kind of gave me, like indie vibes. Like there's just like a lot packed into this book and not all of it makes sense. Like we even have like a romance going on in this book, and obviously every woman in this book is tall and leggy because it's written by a man. But yeah, the guy ends up stealing a pet dragon at some point, and it's just like his pet dragon. He tries to take down an evil corporation. Like, there's just a lot. But like, I did have a good time. Like, even though this is like riddled with written by a manisms, like I still gave it 4 stars. I still had a good time. It's just a silly, goofy time. You can't take it too seriously. The next book I actually do have with me and can show you. Where did I put it? I put it right here. Andromeda Strain by Michael Crichton. I have owned, ooh, there was a bookmark in here. I have owned this copy of this book for a long time. I think I'd like garnered enough points on thrift books to get a free book, and this was the free book I chose. But yeah, I mean, speaking of written by a manisms, like this was written in 1969, I believe, or published in 1969, and it is written by a man in the 60s. I'm pretty sure there is one woman with like dialogue in this book, and she has like 2 lines of dialogue, and she is like a phone operator, and the narrative calls her a girl. So not a lot of points in the Bechdel test area. But it is, you know, I guess, I don't know if classic sci-fi is the word for it, but modern classic maybe? Staple of the genre. As far as like kind of disease sci-fi. It's just kind of wild to me because you associate Michael Crichton with like the movies his books became, like Jurassic Park, or I guess Westworld wasn't based on a book, but like he wrote the TV show. Like you just envision him as this like super cinematic type of personality, but then you like actually read the books. And like, I haven't read Jurassic Park, but like every book of his that I have read, it's mostly dudes standing around talking about science. Like this one is mostly dudes sitting in a lab doing lab tests. But like, I'm enthralled. I'm obsessed. I want to know the results of these lab tests. Like, granted, I am a nerd, but like, I think it just really speaks to his prowess as an author that you can just be content to read about 6 white dudes, 6 uninteresting white dudes, sitting in a lab doing lab tests and doing decontamination procedures. Like, I don't know. It's wild to me that like this book is as good as it is for having nothing. So I think I did end up giving this 4 stars just because, you know, the written by a man in his 60s of it all, but it is very entertaining and very good. I don't know what else to say. So those are all the books I read in May. Please let me know what your favorite book of May was and what your favorite sci-fi is. Like, I might keep this sci-fi shtick going. I'm having a good time with it. And thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.